May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be pleasing to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Sorry about my mic. It is making some funny noises, so I'm going to try not to move too much. Surprised by grace. Have you ever been surprised by grace? Received a gift so lavish that there was no way you could have earned it? Or received forgiveness before you even had a chance to apologize or recognize that you had wronged someone? Or perhaps just have been so loved that it is beyond your wildest imagination. That is what today's story is about. It is about being surprised by grace. The youngest son has gone to his father, said, "Give me my inheritance now," which was really another way of saying, "Hey, I wish you were dead, Dad." Quite an insult now and then. And then the father, surprisingly, gives it to him. And rather than saying thank you, he packs up his bags, leaves his father, leaves his family, leaves his community, leaves all of the values he has grown up with behind, and goes off and squanders this money on dissolute living. He doesn't save anything, and when he falls on hard times, he's got nothing left and has to go care for unclean animals, for pigs. He has hit rock bottom. And he comes to his senses and says, "You know what? At least in my father's house, I can beg for mercy. I can't possibly expect to be a son again, but at least maybe I'll have food and a bed." And he goes home. And what happens? Well, we all know what happens. Even before he can begin to stammer out the speech he has rehearsed, his father comes running to him and embraces him, already forgiven. And when he does get to his apology, his father does not send him to be a hired hand, but instead puts a ring on his finger, a cloak over his shoulders, and throws a big party. The son is surprised by grace. Well, the older son is also surprised by grace, but he really doesn't like it. He's surprised by the grace that is lavished on his younger, undeserving brother. He's a bit of a perfectionist, I think. I'm projecting a little. I'm the oldest. Bit of a perfectionist, always followed the rules, did what he was supposed to do. He wanted to earn that right. He wanted to earn that love. And his father surprises him with grace too. He could have chided his son for his self-righteousness. He could have chided his son for his lack of forgiveness. But instead, he just says, "Everything I have is yours. You have always had my love. You have always had my grace. It has always been yours. Now come to the party." Like I said, I'm the oldest. I can sort of relate to this. I was such a perfectionist growing up. I got straight A's. I followed all the rules. I was terrified of making a mistake, sure that if I did, I would be utterly unworthy. And so I worked and worked and worked to make sure that never happened. But of course, I am human, and it did. And I don't remember the context of the conversation, but I remember talking to one of my professors in college, and he looked at me and he said, "Alwyn, you can't do anything to make God love you more. And you can't do anything to make God love you less." Now, this should have been good news, but it made me really, really mad. I'm not entirely sure why to this day that it made me so angry, except that maybe I really wanted to be that straight A student. I really wanted to get a report card. I really wanted to be told I had earned it. And in my depths, I was afraid I didn't really deserve it, and I had to prove it. And to really be vulnerable, to really admit that I needed that love, that was really difficult. But it was also a turning point for me. It was the moment when I learned that I was loved, and I had always been loved, and nothing I could do was going to change that. That God's love did not depend on my goodness, but on God's goodness, on the fact that it is God's nature to love lavishly, and that it was my nature to need that love. That was a turning point for me. And we don't get the end of the story for the older son. I hope he opened himself up to that grace and received that love and went to the party. I hope he did. That's what we're all called to do today. Whether we can relate to the younger son, we've been dramatically dissolute. We've been dramatically sinful. We've hit rock bottom. Or we've always been the perfectionist who followed all the rules and thought we had it all right. Or we're somewhere in between. Wherever we are called, as 2 Corinthians says, to come and be reconciled to God. We are told that God desperately wants to grab us into God's wide open arms. God is running out to meet us. Will we run into God's arms? Will we let ourselves connect to God, be reconciled to God? Will we enter the feast, go to the party? I did a funeral yesterday for one of our founding members, Mel Colliber, and he wrote some beautiful notes for all of us about his faith in the message he left about what he wanted for his funeral. And the image that came up over and over again was of Jesus knocking at the door. It comes from Revelation 3:20, where Christ says, "Listen, I am standing at the door and knocking. If you let me in, I will come and dine with you, and you will dine with me." That's the question we're asked today. Will you open up the door and come and dine with me? Will you come to the feast where I am inviting you and everyone, even those we don't believe deserve to be invited, where we are all invited to come to God's table? Will we let God lavish us with God's great love, with God's unending grace? Will we come to the feast? Let's do it. Let's party. Amen.